don't post much here, but lately I've been thinking a lot about how life has this strange way of circling back, and I guess I just need to write it out. Maybe someone out there will relate. So, let's rewind to high school. I was 17, senior year, and I thought I had my life mapped out. Sports, decent grades, a small but close group of friends. I wasn't the most popular guy, not even close, but I knew a lot of people and got along with everyone. I liked being the guy people could rely on. There was this girl Emma. Quiet, smart, artistic. She always sat in the back row in English class, sketching little doodles in the margins of her notebook. At the time, I just thought she was one of those good kids who did her work and kept her head down. We weren't in the same circles, so our paths didn't really cross outside of school. What I didn't know back then, and only found out years later, was that she had this massive crush on me. Like, apparently it lasted for years. I had no clue. Looking back, maybe I should have noticed the way she always seemed to laugh a little harder at my dumb jokes when I was answering in class, or how she'd glance away quickly if I happened to turn around. But when you're a teenager, you're so wrapped up in your own little world that you miss the obvious. At that point in my life, I wasn't thinking about Emma. I was chasing after another girl, caught up in dumb high school drama, and just trying to figure out who I was. I wasn't mean to her or anything, I always said hi if we passed in the hall, and I helped her once when she dropped her books, but that was the extent of it. She was just Emma, that quiet girl from English. I didn't know it then, but she was carrying something much bigger in her heart. And that's where everything started, where she was falling, and I was blind to it. Prom night. God, I can still picture it. Everyone was buzzing with energy, the gym decorated with too many fairy lights, the DJ blasting songs that were already outdated. I was hanging out with my group, trying to soak up the last big night of high school before graduation. At some point, Emma walked up to me. I remember being surprised because, like I said before, we weren't exactly close. We shared classes, exchanged small talk, but she wasn't someone I thought would seek me out in a crowd. She looked nervous. Hands fidgeting with her dress, avoiding direct eye contact. She asked if we could talk. Just the two of us. We stepped outside, away from the noise, where it was quieter. And then she just spilled it. Her voice was shaky, but her words were clear. She told me she liked me. That she'd liked me for a long time. I was frozen. I wasn't expecting it at all. My mind went blank because, honestly, I didn't know how to respond. I'd never thought about Emma that way. She was kind, beautiful in a soft kind of way, but she just wasn't on my radar. Not then. So I did the only thing I thought was right. I told her the truth. I told her she was amazing, but I didn't feel the same. I remember the way her face shifted, it wasn't dramatic, just this quiet kind of heartbreak that hit harder than if she'd cried or yelled. She nodded, forced a small smile, and said, "Thanks for being honest." And then she walked back inside. I went back to my friends like nothing happened, but the whole night felt off. Something about the look in her eyes stuck with me. The kind of look that said she was carrying years of hope, only to have it collapse in a single moment. At 17, I didn't think much more about it. I thought, well, at least I was honest. She'll move on. That's what we tell ourselves, right? That honesty is enough. But honesty doesn't make rejection hurt less. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that moment, me standing there under string lights, telling her I didn't feel the same, was going to echo back into my life years later in ways I never could have predicted. After high school, I went off to med school. Long hours, endless exams, and the constant pressure to be the guy who has it together. I threw myself into it because, honestly, avoiding my feelings was easier than facing them. High school heartbreak seemed like a lifetime ago, and Emma, well, she just became a memory. But every so often, she'd pop into my mind. I'd scroll through social media and see her posts, sketches, travel pics, shots of her architecture projects, and I'd catch myself thinking, wow, she's incredible. But it was distant admiration, not longing. By then, I'd been in a long-term relationship, and life felt busy enough that there wasn't room for the what-ifs. Even so, there were nights I'd lie awake after long shifts, thinking about how different life would have been if I'd felt differently back in high school. I'd imagine a teenage version of myself being braver, noticing her, asking her out. And I'd feel a twinge of regret, just enough to remind me she mattered. It wasn't that I missed her as my crush, it was more like a ghost of what I didn't see, a reminder of kindness I had overlooked. And in med school, where people moved fast, failed fast, and sometimes forgot who they were, remembering Emma was grounding. Life carried on. I graduated, got into residency, met people, dated, broke up, moved apartments, traveled. All of it. But somehow, Emma remained a quiet presence at the edge of my thoughts. And I didn't realize it then, but life had a funny way of keeping the important things close, even when you think you've moved on. Fast forward almost 10 years. I wasn't planning on going to the high school reunion, let's be honest. The idea of standing around in a gym full of awkward small talk didn't exactly excite me. But one of my old friends convinced me, saying, "Come on, it'll be fun. And hey, maybe you'll see Emma." I laughed it off. Yeah, right, I thought. Then I saw her. Emma. She hadn't changed much, really, just older, sharper, more confident. She was smiling at someone across the room, hair tucked behind her ears like she used to do in English class. And then our eyes met. The first words out of my mouth were probably some stupid, nervous version of Emma. Wow, it's been years. She laughed that soft, nervous laugh I remembered, the one that used to make me feel like I'd done something right just by being in the same room. We ended up talking for hours. Not just small talk, either. We reminisced about teachers, funny incidents, awkward moments in high school. I laughed more that night than I had in months. And for the first time, I noticed things I'd never really noticed before, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about architecture, the way she tilted her head when she listened, the little quirks that made her her. Something shifted that night. It wasn't sudden romance, just recognition. I finally saw her. Not the quiet girl in the back of English class, not the girl I'd accidentally rejected, but the woman who had grown into someone brilliant and captivating. And I realized, with this slow, sinking clarity, that maybe I'd never really stopped thinking about her. After the reunion, Emma and I started texting. At first, it was casual, "Hey, how's work? Remember that time in Mr. Laird's class?" But it quickly turned into late-night conversations that lasted hours. We'd talk about everything, career struggles, stupid little victories, family drama, even the things we regretted from high school. I learned a lot about her I hadn't known before. She'd gone through a lot, college in another city, moving for work, juggling projects, struggling to find her footing in a big city. And yet, she was thriving, stronger than I'd ever imagined. Then came the moment that hit me like a punch in the chest. One evening, we were walking along the river after dinner, the city lights reflecting in the water, and she laughed at something dumb I said. I turned to look at her, and in that instant, I realized I was falling for her. I hesitated, because I remembered high school. I remembered how I'd hurt her without meaning to, how my younger self had been blind to what was right in front of me. But I couldn't deny it anymore. I looked at her and said, almost nervously, "Emma, I think I'm falling for you." Her eyes went wide, then softened, and she smiled the kind of smile that made everything feel like it could be okay. "I think I've been waiting for you to say that," she whispered. And just like that, years of regret, missed chances, and quiet admiration finally had a chance to catch up with reality. After that night by the river, things changed. Slowly at first, more calls, more dinners, more long walks where we talked about everything and nothing. I found myself noticing every little thing about her, the way she twirled her hair when she was thinking, how her laugh could fill a room, the way her eyes crinkled when she genuinely smiled. It wasn't like high school anymore. I wasn't rushing her, and I wasn't being reckless. We were adults, carrying our pasts with us, but ready to build something real. And somehow, that made it feel even more intense. One weekend, we went hiking outside the city. At the summit, the wind was cold, the view breathtaking, and I realized I didn't want to hide my feelings ever again. I turned to her, grabbed her hands, and said, "Emma, I don't want to waste another moment. I love you. I've loved you, in some way, for a long time." She blinked, stunned, and then smiled that soft, knowing smile I'd remembered from high school. "I love you too," she said quietly. We didn't need dramatic gestures or fireworks. It was just us, two people who had waited, grown, and learned that love doesn't always arrive when you expect it, it arrives when it's meant to. That night, holding her in my arms, I finally understood what I'd been missing all those years. Fast forward a few years. Emma and I are married now. I still remember walking down the aisle, seeing her in that dress, thinking about the 17-year-old version of myself who had no clue what he was missing. The one who had accidentally broken a girl's heart because he didn't notice her, didn't see her. Now, standing there, seeing her smile at me, I felt a kind of gratitude I can't even put into words. Life had taken us through years of heartbreak, growth, and unexpected twists, but it had led us here. And somehow, it was perfect. We joke sometimes about our high school selves. About how clueless I was, about how patient she was. But more than anything, we appreciate the timing. We know now that love isn't about rushing or doing everything right at the first chance, it's about showing up for each other when it matters, no matter how long it takes. Every time I look at her, I remember those years of longing and waiting, and I realize, if life had been different, if I'd noticed her sooner, we might have had something, but it wouldn't have been this. It wouldn't have been grown, grounded, real love. High school crushes fade, but some people are meant to stay. And Emma? She's my forever.